10 shots. At least 10 shots fired into a man who was already pinned face down on the ground by multiple federal agents. Bystander videos verified by the Washington Post, Reuters, the New York Times, and CBS News show the sequence clearly. Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old American citizen, an ICU nurse who cared for veterans, was holding a phone in his hand when federal agents tackled him. One agent removed a firearm from Pretti's waistband. Less than 1 second later, another agent pointed his gun at Pretti's back and fired, then kept firing. The Department of Homeland Security says Pretti approached officers with a weapon and violently resisted. The videos show something different. They show a man trying to help a woman who had been pushed to the ground. They show him being pepper sprayed, tackled, and shot repeatedly while restrained. They show what may be the most documented killing by federal law enforcement in American history. The shooting occurred shortly after 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning in South Minneapolis at the intersection of 26th Street and Nicollet Avenue. Federal agents were conducting what they described as a targeted operation against a man present in the country illegally who was wanted for domestic assault, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license. This was part of Operation Metro Surge, the largest immigration enforcement operation in American history, which has deployed thousands of federal agents to Minneapolis since early January. Protesters had been tracking these operations for weeks. When federal agents arrived on 26th Street, community members sounded whistles, honked horns, and gathered to observe. Among them was Pretti. Multiple videos captured what happened next. They begin with Pretti standing in the street, holding his phone in his right hand, appearing to record the federal agents. His left hand is visible and empty. A witness later described in a sworn court declaration that Pretti was directing traffic, helping cars navigate around the scene, trying to assist people who needed to understand they should take it slow. A federal agent approaches a group of protesters. Video shows the agent pushing one woman and shoving another woman to the ground. Pretti moves between the agent and the women. He raises his left arm, apparently to shield himself. The agent pepper sprays him directly in the face. Several agents then converge on Pretti. They grab him from behind. They drag him toward the street and tackle him to the ground. He is forced onto his hands and knees. At least 5 agents, possibly as many as 8, surround him. Video shows them striking him while he is on the ground. At some point during this restraint, agents discover that Pretti is carrying a firearm. Someone shouts what sounds like a warning about the presence of a gun. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara later confirmed that Pretti was a lawful gun owner with a valid permit to carry. Minnesota law permits both open and concealed carry of firearms with appropriate permits. Pretti had such a permit. Video footage analyzed by multiple news organizations shows what happens next. An agent who had been hovering over the scrum reaches into the group of officers restraining Pretti. The agent emerges with what appears to be a handgun in his right hand. He begins backing away from Pretti with the weapon. Less than 1 second after that agent steps away holding Pretti's gun, another agent points his own service weapon at Pretti's back and fires. The first shot is followed by 3 more in rapid succession. Pretti slumps to the ground. Then more shots are fired. A third agent draws his weapon. Both agents appear to fire additional rounds into Pretti as he lies motionless. In total, according to the New York Times analysis, at least 10 shots were fired within approximately 5 seconds. A witness who is a physician and who filed a sworn statement in federal court said Pretti sustained at least 3 gunshot wounds in his back. Agents backed away from Pretti's body, some with guns still drawn. Protesters nearby can be heard screaming. One bystander filming from inside a car is heard shouting in shock. Federal agents on scene reportedly attempted to provide medical aid. Pretti was pronounced dead at the scene. The federal government's account of what happened differs significantly from what the videos show. Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs Tricia McLaughlin released a statement saying the shooting occurred after an individual approached United States Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Officers attempted to disarm him. He resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, an agent fired defensive shots. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem expanded on this characterization at a press conference. She displayed a photograph of the handgun federal officials said was recovered from Pretti. She said he arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. He was not there to peacefully protest, Noem said. He was there to perpetuate violence. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino described the situation even more starkly. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller called Pretti a would-be assassin who tried to assassinate federal law enforcement officers. President Trump posted on Truth Social, sharing images of the recovered firearm. He accused Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey of inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous, and arrogant rhetoric. The discrepancy between these official characterizations and what the videos show is substantial. No video shows Pretti approaching agents with a weapon drawn or visible. Multiple videos show him holding only a phone as he moves to help a woman who had been pushed down. No video shows him brandishing, pointing, or threatening anyone with a firearm. The videos show him being tackled while attempting to assist another person, being restrained by multiple agents, having a weapon removed from his person while he was pinned to the ground, and then being shot repeatedly after an agent had already secured that weapon. The Washington Post conducted an analysis of the footage and concluded that federal agents secured a handgun Pretti was carrying moments before shooting him multiple times. Two witnesses filed sworn statements in federal court within hours of the shooting. One, described in court documents as a children's entertainer who specializes in face painting, said they observed Pretti directing traffic before the altercation. The agents pulled the man on the ground, the witness stated. I did not see him touch any of them. It did not look like he was trying to resist, just trying to help a woman get up. They just threw him to the ground. The witness statement directly contradicted the federal account. The man did not approach the agents with a gun, he approached them with a camera. A second witness, identified as a physician who lives nearby, said federal agents initially prevented medical personnel from reaching Pretti after he was shot. Alex Jeffrey Pretti was born in Illinois. He graduated from high school in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and attended the University of Minnesota, graduating in 2011. He worked as an intensive care nurse at the Minneapolis Veterans Affairs Medical Center, caring for American veterans. His only interactions with law enforcement prior to his death were traffic tickets. He had no criminal record of any kind. His colleague, Dr. Dmitry Drakanja, who worked alongside Pretti at the VA hospital, described him as an incredibly competent person who was good at his job. A sweet, kind man who loved the outdoors and mountain biking. Drakanja added that there is no reason for a guy like that to be dead, let alone to be killed by the agents of a government that employed him. A Minneapolis man named Mac Randolph shared a video on Facebook from December 2024, showing his dying father's last moments at the VA hospital. In the video, a man he identified as Pretti is at the bedside providing care. Today we remember that freedom is not free, the man in the video says. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it. Pretti lived in an apartment in the Lindale neighborhood of South Minneapolis, roughly 30 feet from a memorial to George Floyd, who was killed by Minneapolis police in 2020. His neighbor Jean Weiner told Minnesota Public Radio that she would chat with Pretti when he walked his dog around the neighborhood. He was a calm person. He is a nurse. I am mad. I am angry. This was a good person. This is not a violent person. His parents, Michael and Susan Pretti, who live in Colorado, released a statement hours after their son's death. We are heartbroken, but also very angry, they wrote. Alex was a kind-hearted soul who cared deeply for his family and friends, and also the American veterans whom he cared for as an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA hospital. Alex wanted to make a difference in this world. Unfortunately, he will not be with us to see his impact. The statement continued with a direct rebuttal of the administration's characterization. I do not throw around the hero term lightly. However, his last thought and act was to protect a woman. The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked by Trump's murdering and cowardly ICE thugs. He has his phone in his right hand, and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman ICE just pushed down, all while being pepper sprayed. Please get the truth out about our son. He was a good man. Pretti's father explained his son's motivation for participating in protests. He cared about people deeply, and he was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis and throughout the United States with ICE, as millions of other people are upset. He thought it was terrible, kidnapping children, just grabbing people off the street. He cared about those people, and he knew it was wrong, so he did participate in protests. His mother said Pretti was particularly invested in climate change and human impact on the environment. He hated that people were just trashing the land. He was an outdoorsman. He took his dog everywhere he went. He loved this country, but he hated what people were doing to it. Their last conversation with their son occurred a couple of days before his death. They told him to be careful when protesting. The shooting was not an isolated incident. It was the third shooting by federal agents in Minneapolis in 17 days. On January 7, 2026, Renee Good became the first casualty of Operation Metro Surge. Good was a 37-year-old American citizen, a mother of three, an award-winning poet. She had been working as a legal observer, monitoring federal immigration enforcement activities. Federal officials said she accelerated her vehicle toward ICE agent Jonathan Ross before he fired in self-defense. Video analysis and witness accounts contradicted this, suggesting her vehicle was turning away when shots were fired through her windshield. She was killed by a bullet to the head. On January 14th, federal agents shot Julio Cesar Sosa Celis, a Venezuelan national, in North Minneapolis during what officials described as a struggle following a car chase. He survived with a gunshot wound to his leg. On January 24th, Alex Pretti was killed. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara noted the pattern at a press conference. The Minneapolis Police Department went the entire year last year, recovering about 900 guns from the street, arresting hundreds and hundreds of violent offenders, and we did not shoot anyone. There have been 3 homicides in Minneapolis in 2026 so far. 2 of those were committed by federal immigration enforcement agents. O'Hara also revealed that federal agents blocked Minneapolis police from accessing the scene of Pretty's shooting. Even when our officers initially responded to the scene, our watch commander was not given even the most basic information that is typical in a law enforcement-involved shooting, just to ensure that there is potentially no other victims. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which normally investigates officer-involved shootings, was also denied access despite having obtained a judge's signed search warrant. This obstruction prompted immediate legal action. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension filed an emergency lawsuit claiming federal authorities had mishandled evidence at the crime scene. They alleged the actions were necessary to prevent destruction of evidence. Hours after the shooting, United States District Court Judge Eric Tostrad, who was appointed to the bench by President Trump during his first term in 2018, granted a temporary restraining order against the Department of Homeland Security. The order bars the department from altering or destroying any evidence related to Pretty's killing. A hearing to consider extending the order was scheduled for Monday. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison issued a statement. A full, impartial, and transparent investigation into his fatal shooting at the hands of DHS agents is non-negotiable. Governor Tim Walz responded within hours of the shooting. He said he had spoken with the White House twice that morning. On social media, he called the shooting sickening. The president must end this operation. Pull the thousands of violent, untrained officers out of Minnesota. Now. Walz had watched the videos from multiple angles. His assessment of the federal government's account was direct. That is nonsense. What I see with my eyes and what you are going to see with your eyes makes that pretty hard to believe. Walz deployed the Minnesota National Guard to assist local law enforcement, with Guard members instructed to wear yellow reflective vests to distinguish themselves from federal agents wearing similar tactical gear. Mayor Jacob Fry said he watched one of the videos and saw more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents, shooting him to death. He announced the city would seek a temporary restraining order to halt Operation Metro Surge entirely. Senators Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith, both Democrats representing Minnesota, called for ICE to leave the state immediately. Representative Ilhan Omar called the shooting an execution and accused President Trump of transforming Minneapolis into a war zone. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who was born in Minneapolis, responded to the shooting on social media. Thank God for the patriots of ICE. We have your back 100%. You are saving the country. He added shame on the leadership of Minnesota and the lunatics in the street. He concluded with 3 words: ICE greater than Minnesota. The Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus issued its own statement, notable for coming from a firearms rights organization. We are deeply concerned by this morning's reports that a federal law enforcement operation in Minneapolis resulted in the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Alex Pretti by federal agents. According to local officials, the man was legally armed, a firearm was recovered at the scene, and he is believed to have been a lawful gun owner and permit to carry holder. Every peaceable Minnesotan has the right to keep and bear arms, including while attending protests, acting as observers, or exercising their First Amendment rights. These rights do not disappear when someone is lawfully armed, and they must be respected and protected at all times. This statement highlights a legal question that will likely be central to any investigation or litigation. Pretti was exercising two constitutional rights simultaneously. He was engaged in protected speech and assembly by observing and documenting a protest. He was also exercising his Second Amendment right to bear arms by carrying a legally permitted firearm. The question is whether federal agents can shoot a lawful gun owner who has not drawn, brandished, or pointed his weapon at anyone, who has not threatened anyone, who was in the process of being restrained by multiple officers, and whose weapon had apparently already been secured by another agent. Under standard use of force guidelines, deadly force is justified when officers reasonably believe they or others face an imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm. A man pinned face down on the ground by multiple agents, struck repeatedly, with his weapon already removed, does not present such a threat. Rob Dorr, an attorney and president of the Gun Owners Law Center, analyzed the available footage. Officers have to have been in reasonable fear of imminent death and great bodily harm. That is the threshold that has to be met. And what it appears to me, and I am happy to be convinced otherwise, is that at the time that the shots were fired, he had been disarmed seconds before. Within hours of the shooting, hundreds of protesters converged on the scene. Federal agents deployed tear gas and stun grenades. At least one person was pepper sprayed. Two protesters were arrested after attempting to cross police tape. Protesters chanted and screamed profanities at the masked federal officers, calling them cowards and telling them to go home. One federal officer responded mockingly as he walked away. Boo-hoo. The situation calmed after federal agents left the area. That evening, hundreds gathered quietly at a memorial for Pretti at the intersection where he was killed. They carried signs demanding justice. They chanted his name alongside that of Renee Good. Community members brought flowers, candles, and photographs. A donut shop located near the scene posted a message on Instagram. "We have heavy hearts today and will for many to come. We have had this view every day for almost 13 years. It will never be the same. The experience we had yesterday will haunt us all for life. Alex Pretti will live with us forever. We are so sorry this happened to you." The investigation into Pretti's death faces immediate obstacles. Federal authorities have asserted jurisdiction over the case. The FBI, which would typically investigate civil rights violations by law enforcement, reports to an administration that has already characterized Pretti as a domestic terrorist who intended to massacre officers. State and local investigators have been blocked from the scene. They have filed lawsuits to preserve evidence. A federal judge has issued a restraining order, but none of this guarantees access to the full record of what occurred or accountability for the agents who fired. The officers who shot Pretti have not been publicly identified. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino said only that the shooter was an 8-year veteran with extensive training as a range safety officer and less lethal officer. What remains are the videos. Dozens of clips recorded by bystanders, verified by multiple news organizations, analyzed frame by frame. They show a man holding a phone trying to help a woman who had been pushed down, being tackled, restrained, and shot at least 10 times while pinned to the ground. The federal government says Pretti was a terrorist who wanted to massacre law enforcement. His parents say he was a kind-hearted soul who cared for veterans. His colleagues say he was an incredibly competent nurse who was good at his job. His neighbors say he was a calm person who loved the outdoors and took his dog everywhere. The videos show what happened. The question is whether anyone will be held accountable for it, whether the investigation will be conducted fairly, whether the videos will be given the weight they deserve, or whether the federal government's characterization will prevail, regardless of what the evidence shows. Alex Pretti was 37 years old. He was an American citizen. He was a licensed gun owner exercising his constitutional rights. He was an ICU nurse who spent his days caring for veterans. His last act, according to multiple witnesses and video evidence, was trying to help a woman who had been pushed to the ground by a federal agent. For that, he was tackled, pepper sprayed, struck repeatedly, and shot at least 10 times in the back while pinned to the ground by multiple officers. The administration calls him a terrorist. The videos call that characterization into question. and his parents are asking the public to get the truth out about their son. He was a good man.